Hello, everybody. My name is Timothy Huffman III. I am with ECDC, better known as Exposure Community Development Corporation. And today we have our very first interview slash podcast. To my left, we have Mr. Tyler. Next to him is Mr. Benard McQueen. Next to me is Bo Berry, the legend. And next to him is the legend himself, Jose Carr. So today we are going to be talking about the purpose of the jam session. Mr. Carr has been hosting a jam session for a while, so we will start with him. What is the purpose of the jam session?
Well, in my opinion, I would say the purpose of a jam session is, and like I say, one thing about the music, it be passed on. I just got this quoted from guys that I played with a long time ago, and I think Jesse or Thomas Stewart told me that the purpose of the jam session really is to meet everybody on a night that the musicians are not working, because back in the day when jazz was very popular, when musicians were working 4 and 5 nights a week, they always picked a Monday night to have a Blue Monday jam session so we can see each other, because everybody be working on weekends. So that's why that was the purpose of the jam session. And then learn from each other at the same time. Learn tunes from each other and, what you got going on here and there. Because if you didn't have a jam session, you probably wouldn't see each other like right now. I just use Benard and Willie for example. We've been playing together close to 40, 45 years, but, we don't really see each other until on Tuesday, our gig. We don't see each other no other time. We might talk on the phone, but we don't see each other because we going on with our lives just like Bo. I see Bo on Tuesday, but I won't see him on the rest of the week because he be doing his thing and doing this. That's basically the purpose of the jam session, basically all of us. We don't see each other till Tuesday. I don't see Tyler till Tuesday, And so that's the purpose of the jam session, in my opinion, to meet and change ideas.
Okay. Bo, what you think?
Same person.
Okay.
I'm like Jose, but I also see it as a communication gap between music and musicians. See, the session, you learn a lot of the session because certain songs that you might not think of, somebody else gonna call that song. Mm-hmm. So you get a chance to go home and learn other songs that other people call. So it's very important to have a session. I mean, that's how you develop good players. You can stay at home practice for the next 10 years and still won't be able to play with folks when you come out. Yeah. So I'm with Jose. It's very important to have sessions to keep the communication going on between musicians and keeping the music moving.
Nice. What about you, Mr. Benard?
Okay, yeah, all that I look at is that being very important. Like for its communication, and then that communication just comes from playing with guys that you hadn't played with, or that you hadn't. Because the jam session is not a rehearsal. Mm-hmm. It's very instinctive. So you learn that. Instead of like say you used to playing with some guys and stuff like that, but when guys come to town, with serious players, they look for jam sessions, the serious ones, So, they call a tune, and then, like I say, it's all just like both saying, it's communication, So it's just like you develop to learn how to speak to one another without actually talking. You're doing it through the music itself. Yeah. So, and other not. I don't downplay any other music or stuff like that, but I know in jazz, that's how that is. If you look at the great players years ago or stuff like that, they had their jam sessions, they speaking to one another. Right. Also, they speaking to the audience. Right. I mean, and like I say, it's a universal language where people really don't, a lot of people don't give it the kind of respect that it should get. Yeah. But like I say, you talking, you speaking through your mannerism for whatever you saying. Just like, I'm a rhythm player, I play bass, that's my thing. But like I say, I try to feed off of the soloist trying to comp, you know, them, you know, trying to lay that thing down so that way they will be able to speak freely without getting in their way, you know. So, you know, all those things are important.
About to sip, Tyler.
I mean, there's not much to say that hasn't already been said, but I mean, yeah. Again, you know, I absolutely agree with everything else that's been said, and I also think another great thing about the jam session is it gives you kind of an opportunity to work out all the stuff that you've been practicing.
There you go.
Yeah.
And you know, in addition to that, you know, you can try things on the jam session and see if it works. You know, if it doesn't work when you're playing with other people, maybe it works when you're practicing, but if it doesn't work with other people, maybe scrap that idea or rework it or find a new way to explore that concept. And additionally, it's just to, you know, kind of foster a community and build up repertoire within Birmingham. Like we play tunes down here that most cats don't play other spots, and you know, same thing, vice versa.
That's true.
So it's all about kind of developing that sense of community and just meeting other musicians too, other like-minded players.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the most important thing about the jam session.
Yeah.
Nice. So all of these guys up here can read and play by ear as well. So which plays a huge part in music. So the next thing I would like to move to is their experiences in the jam session, if they even met a person like maybe Cleve Eden or Wynn Marsalis. Like, what was that like? It's pretty open. You can start, Jose, with that.
Well, the jam session, I had a chance to, I forgot his name, but I met some guys in Count Basie's band that came to the jam session down there in Studio 98. Me and Benard and Bo was down there before you and Tyler were born. We met, I know you said Wynn Marsalis and Cleve, I'm gonna get to them, but we met, there's some more guys that, like Fred Ballard played with Mingles. Trumpet player sound like Fred, and we met him. He crashed the jam session. And Jolton played with Sun Ra. You know, what the guy named played the vibes Jolton played with? NBC what's his name played the vibes, y'all? Lionel, yeah, and all that. So
Westbrook played
yeah,
vibes.
yeah, and I just say, you know, Jesse and all the guys. When Marsalis came about 3 of our jam sessions in my lifetime, I had a chance to meet Willie Shaw, but I never met him at a jam session. But I met Freddie. I met Dizzy. But come at the jam session, believe it or not, and when the whole band came west, all them, and they just ain't like regular cats. They didn't, women just hanging out, you know. I guess we had a musician here, you know, that, you know, one of the local musicians here was feeling good and talking stuff, and they felt, oh man, he disrespecting Wynn. Wynn wasn't paying no attention to him, because Wynn said he be around people like that all the time. He's at the session having a good time, you know. So I ain't gonna call that person name, but when, you know, Jess was feeling good and playing Cherokee and talking trash, and other guys, yo, you saw he talking to Wynn. Man, Wynn wasn't studying that. He just was playing. They Cleve, all of them, these just regular guys, man. To me, I didn't get no different vibe like they was all. One thing I did learn about the real jazz cats that plays, I don't know now, the only guys that really had a problem, and I'm not knocking nobody no play, was most of the guys in my generation, not Bo's generation, because Bo had guys that didn't play jazz would come down and support us and play the music. They just come and sit in there. They were funk players, but the guys doing me and Button all the time, you know, the problem was they never support the music and they never come around. So them the ones be acting arrogant when you go around them. The ones that really don't play, the guys that can really play, they don't be arrogant. Right. The guys that can really play. You know, when Marsalis just acting like a regular old cat. Now, I've been around him 3 times. You know, he was down. So I didn't feel no different with them when they came around. They just was popular. But even Grover Washington came in there. Jesse played so good tonight. Grover Washington started buying him beer. He sounded so good. So that's just my idea on it.
Okay. What about you, Bo?
Yeah, well, I met a lot of good players at sessions. I've been to a lot of sessions, man. I mean, coming up, I used to drive hundreds of miles just to play, Yeah. And you mentioned Cleve. Cleve was a big influence on me because of how he dealt with the music and the way he felt about the music. He back when I was coming up, I knew it. He introduced me. My teacher was a jazz player. So I met a lot of guys, like Jose was saying, a lot of guys that he know that I got a chance to meet and hear. And all these people I met, they was at sessions. They was at jam sessions, And Cleve, there was a guy named Leroy Allen, senior, piano player. Well, you had Walter Miller. All these guys used to be at sessions. I was just a youngster, but I used to go out and catch them. I wasn't playing enough to talk about getting on stage with the guys, but at that time, it was a lot of influence on me just to watch all these famous guys. They were famous to me because they all had been playing. Yeah. And then I began to meet, Ellis Marcellus and, like Jose said, Winton and Bradford and all of them at sessions. I used to go to New Orleans. Every time I went to New Orleans, I would get out and play. I mean, anywhere I would go, man, I would always find a session to go to, because like we said earlier, it's always something to learn in this music. And when you cut yourself short by just staying in one direction, you're hurting yourself. Playing this music can't take away from what you're doing. If you like smooth jazz, that's okay. It can enhance that. Because Grover and all these people, man, you hear them playing the smooth jazz, but these guys could play. I'm talking about really play, So I met a lot of guys, man, and there was all that sessions. That's where I met most of the great players at, man.
Nice. Yeah, I was gonna say for me, even meeting all of these guys at the session, I've been playing with Mr. Carr since I was like 6, maybe 7 years old. Back in the City Stages days. So yeah, I know even meeting these guys, including Elliot Ashley, who I actually looked up to. He was a phenomenal drummer as well. So I know the sessions helped me out a whole lot. As far as chops and working and practicing on, just even if it's not for a gig, in particular, just practice growth. So, what about yourself, Mr. Benard?
Okay. Meeting other guys, and like I say, all these guys really just regular people. They're regular people. But what you got from them, I mean, you got loads of information from them, how to approach, the music correctly. I remember Nate Miller used to get on me about when we started songs off, and he said, "Hey man, look, we're playing twos. You're playing twos right there, And it is ways. I mean, you hear a lot of people, not just younger, but a lot of them who really have not listened to the music.
What?
And how to approach it, how it's supposed to be played. And then, I guess they creating their own thing. But from creating your own thing, you got to have a foundation to start off of, to really grow off. Because, I know you got people call things jazz, and, I'm not really with that. People, I like to call things what it is. But for is learning to play and learning to get these things correctly and stuff like that. And then, like I say, as you talk to these people, a lot of these guys really live that life. I mean, we didn't come up, I know me and Jose, Bo was different, but see the thing about it, at the times when these guys was playing, that was the music.
That's right.
That's what they listened to all the time. They lived it.
That's right.
You know, and some of them things, you know, you just ain't gonna get that experience yourself, you know. So, but like I say, in order to learn a lot of things, you sit down and talk to these guys, and like I say, and they give you lessons on, you know, how these things should be, you know, and then what is and what ain't,
Right.
you know.
That's right.
So and so, like I say, it's a lot of learning what you would get from jam session. Like I say, you guys come in with different things. Hey man, well you know, were you playing this way? Well, you heard so and so play this, you know, or this approach and that right there, and then you, like I say, as you start hearing those things, it really opens you up.
What you was gonna say, Bo?
I often say it is a right way and a wrong way. He just said it. Okay. It's a right way and a wrong way. You know, so it's up to you. I mean, I think at sessions it teaches you the right directions to go in meeting the people that you meet. You know.
What about you, Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, kind of playing off what's already been said, I think, you know, also it gives you kind of an opportunity to learn how to listen. More than anything is that, you know, especially when, you know, a great player comes in or somebody that, you know, we all look up to. And it could be, like y'all mentioned, Cleve and Winton. You can basically hear how they listen, you know, in addition to just how they play and, you know, how they are as a person, which, you know, as mentioned, like these guys, you know, these men and women they're all just normal people, normal everyday people. Like you can just go up to them and ask them whatever questions and they won't hold anything back.
Right.
And I think that's another beautiful thing about, you know, jam sessions, but you can also hear, you know, what they're listening for, what they're hearing out of the band. Because, you know, everybody has a different approach to that. And also you're hearing it over standard repertoire. You know, a lot of times, like if you're going to somebody's gig, a lot of times you're probably going to hear a lot of original music, which is amazing, but hearing them over, you know, a standard tune, you know, such as like All the Things You Are or something, you're hearing how they approach something that you already know, that you're already familiar with, and that can help provide some more insight there. Because, you know, the stuff you hear on a record is going to be a lot different than what you're hearing in person. Because, you know, a record to an extent is either viewed as like promotional material for a tour or, you know, a separate piece of, you know, work of art basically. But a jam session is just them working out their chops, working out the things that they've been practicing. So I think that's another thing that just makes it such a great opportunity.
Nice. So I think I might have one more question for all of these guys. So particularly this question is to, of course, Mr. Jose Carr. And by the way, he has a jam session that at True Story Brewing in Crestwood. And if you all would like to come on to it, it's free from 7 to about 10. And we play jazz literally all night. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So straight up bebop. And yeah. So the question I have for you is, as far as the younger generation dealing with, you know, schools and everything, what would be your advice to a person that wants to learn jazz and why it's not important in this particular era?
Well, we really don't have a real jazz station.
Yeah.
You know, we had
That's true.
jazz stations back then. That would help. Matter of fact, I had told the lady in Birmingham school system, Mays, that they got the first one. The kids not gonna never get. They need to have a workshop for the band teachers because they don't know what's happening.
Right.
And once you know, I mean, this ain't got nothing to do with no degrees. We talking about the art form. You know, they can call, you know, Benard and them to expose the band directors to jazz or Tyler. You know, because this is what we do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know, all the egos got to change. You know, you just a band director, but you don't know nothing about no jazz. So you just sit down and learn along with the children. You know what I'm saying? Learn along with your children. You know what I'm saying? That's what I told them to do. need to call, and that money y'all paying to do all this other, pay some guys come in and do some workshops. As a matter of fact, I gave you your name. I know you're leaving, but maybe you might get in and do something before you leave with Birmingham City for us, teaching, But the band originally need to sit by the children and learn with them. Mm-hmm. And that's why I told Dr. Tucker that if they, whenever they start the Hall of Fame back up, I just want the little children, third and fourth and fifth graders, bring them on up. I don't want no grown people. Because they just, to be honest with you, me and Benard, we just sit down there before we met you and down there on Saturdays, man. They were down there just wasting time. And we need to get them children, the little children going on, they try. The little kids was putting more in it, than them. They just wanted to have something to do on Saturday. Probably was tired of looking at their wife or something, want to get out the house, So, but anyway, that's just my concept about it, and I think once they get the jazz station going, they both say I'm not knocking the other kind of music, but we are talking about jazz, get the kids involved, and like both say, it's gonna help they R&B playing, they smooth jazz playing, you know what I'm saying? It'll make you think more, so that's just my concept about it.
So how long have you been doing jam sessions?
Well, I started jam session probably it was 19, probably 80. 80. Right. And then I left. And went to Texas, and both of them, Benard, they were still doing it. They were doing it when I left. It still went on, And like I was telling Margaret, was talking about that back then. Like we had lunch, and Margaret had sing with us. Yeah. And she was asking me why, she said, why don't black people come here you play? Mm-hmm. I said, well, it ain't always been like that. In the 80s, just like True Story, it'd be packed. It was packed with African Americans playing, Yeah. It was just like that in the 80s, man. He saw it, I saw it, all of us saw it. He probably saw more than us before. You know what I'm saying? They were coming out, but these people probably been passed on, and the other people that's here probably can't, they too old to go anywhere now. Mm-hmm. So the people that real us, like I remember Benard was talking for us, we had a lot of jam sessions, and Bo been to all of them. And some of the guys have passed on, but me and Benard and Bo and Willie, we've been every last one of them. But this one, that True Story, has been the most receptive, people receptive more. Mm-hmm. It just, other people we had our good time, bad time. I'm talking about consistent basis out there. A True Story, man. They really love it. They love it. They come out there. They love the music. Been receptive, man. They actually make you, you practice in a way to make yourself practice. As they said, I used to always use this word in cottage band. When the price of glory is high, you got to pay a price to be successful. It's true. You got to pay a price on the horn. You're gonna play it. You know what I'm saying? So, and my dad's brother gave me an idea. He passed now. His youngest brother. I mean, when we first started down there, if you remember, it used to be Jazz Workshop. Mm-hmm. We used to call it a Jazz Workshop. Mm-hmm. He was from Detroit. He said, man, you ought to get you a jazz workshop going now, because and we were they were having one at Cleve had a club, so we had 2 jam sessions going on. Cleve was on Monday nights, and Bo was on Sunday. I was on Sunday.
I was actually started before he came back to town.
Yeah, before he came back to town, he started doing his on Monday, on Monday night. So Bo said, man, it's good. We got 2 to go to. Mm-hmm. We had 2 jam sessions to go to, and guys was going to both of them, but I wasn't thinking about getting the musician together, because at the time we had that jam session, me and Benard, we was playing R&B. We had a funk band, playing everything off the radio. Me and Benard and Willie, we just came down, and see that what I'm saying, we just came down there on Sundays because we was curious. Mm-hmm. Like, man, and it wasn't like it is now. It was kind of tough. Cats were brutally honest, and they was doing their thing, and so you know, and it just started out being a jam session. So every time one stopped, I just started up and got another one somewhere, like it was just meant to happen. Each time somebody stopped, it would be a little grace period then all of a sudden, boom, I said, boy, I got some more we can play now. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that's just my opinion of it, you know.
No, that was good, man. Yeah. What about you, Bo?
What was that?
Back to the question. I know I had asked about Mr. Carr about the session,
but
more so the younger generation and.
Jose said it to me. It's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
When I was coming up,
yeah,
band teachers were playing, man. They was musicians, even though they taught school. They were playing. They were playing on weekends, and then teaching school starting Monday morning.
Yeah.
So I was more exposed than the young kids are today. And I was exposed through my band teacher.
Yeah.
So now, if your band teachers don't encourage you to do these things, it's going to be hard trying to get it.
Yeah.
That's where it should start. I'm like Jose. Some of the band teachers need to go back and take lessons in how to introduce this to children. And if you don't know, see, egos have got so big now.
Yeah.
They don't want to ask Jose to come in here and show them how to do it because their egos are so big. They don't want the kids to know that they don't know how to do it. So the kids are the ones that's losing. So I'm like Jose, you need to get these people to go back, learn what they need to learn in order to make, have these kids or get these kids interested in the music.
Yeah.
You know, my teacher, when I was in the 9th grade, my teacher was putting Miles Davis on in the band room. You know, I knew his teacher, Mr. Gordon. My teacher introduced me to all these older players like Mr. Gordon, Walter Jackson, all these guys used to come down on Sunday night. But when I was coming up, man, the music was plentiful. There were a lot of places to go play, and a lot of musicians was out playing. So I didn't have the problem that a lot of kids are having these generations now, this younger generation. They don't get enough exposure to the music, and they don't get enough teaching of the music through their band teachers, because that's where it started.
Wow.
Yeah.
What about you, Benard?
Well, I agree with what they're saying. Then too, right now, these days, with Jose word about it, for the music, it's so diluted.
Right.
It's awful. The kids now don't even really want to be in the bands.
Yeah.
Because like I said, they got other interests. Everything on social media these days, and people look at the stars these days and stuff like that. The people who's supposed to be, the mega stars and stuff like that, they don't play nothing. They don't play nothing. The only thing they're doing other things, and they just nothing that they have in. All the stuff what they're doing don't have anything to do with no music or in cultivating anything.
Right.
So everything is about blinging and that stuff, and like I say, you don't the kids you don't. I remember when we was in high school, the bands, our band ran about 300 people, and now you see the kids in the bands now, they don't have much as somebody will have a band on stage, but so like I say, they just really not interested, and they don't. There's nothing out there to really cultivate that to them.
Right.
Just like I say, they got their mind on other stuff. They playing video games, that kind of stuff. But they ain't really looking at playing no music. And really, there's nothing out there on a big platform to try to draw them into that.
Exactly.
I ain't saying nobody, but I'm just talking about on large platforms and stuff like that. The band directors, they ain't trying to play.
Right.
And so, like I say, there's nothing for them to look up to on that. For the stuff that they see, it's really about nothing. So, they don't have any interest.
The question becomes, how do you teach something you don't know?
That's true.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah.
So the kids are at a disadvantage from the beginning.
That's true, and it's still been going down for years.
It's been going down.
It's been going down for years. I know.
Yes, it has.
Just like when we was in high school, like we used to come here, you play.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? I mean, we used to come here, you play. Every all the bands had its certain little bands, out of every high school, stuff like that. And,
There you go.
so and everybody was trying to play for whatever reason why they was trying to play. They was trying to play, because that was the thing to do.
That's right.
And then as the years went on, so since the rap thing came in, all that kind of stuff, hey, what they need? They don't need not one instrument, not for what they do.
And see, when I was coming up, they had talent shows in school.
Same thing with us.
All the high schools had talent shows, and you had bands at Parker, Huffman, Immaculata. I mean, it was music everywhere, man, in the school.
Right.
Wow.
And you try to get yourself together to
go to that school.
to go to that school.
That's right.
Say, hey, man, we got something over here.
And you done heard this band from this particular school. This cat's playing,
Yeah, that's what we met Andre Barnett at.
It was a lot of things that influenced us coming up. But kids they don't have that. They don't
Kids got to really want to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Tyler, 10 guys really interested, want to come.
They got to search for it.
There's a lot of guys,
There are some teachers. There are some teachers that's still pushing it, man. I give Sally.
Oh yeah.
I take my hat off to her.
Yeah.
I mean, she always made her students aware of what's going on. She tried to do that, and that's all you can do.
Right.
But but in most of the black schools, man, you just don't have that happening.
Yeah, in the black schools, it's like I said on my interview. You heard marching band.
Right.
It's just
Right.
marching band. That's
Right.
it. That's determined in the African American school how well you play.
Right.
That's how loud you play a marching band instrument.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll say that, and I'm glad y'all recording it. You know what I'm saying? It's how loud you play an instrument. Right. That's bad.
But but still, in the music industry now, for what somebody deems as successful, that people who's playing jazz, just in the mainstream of everybody, they don't look as someone who's playing jazz as successful.
That's right.
They don't look. I mean, even it's hard as that craft is to cultivate, and but if somebody playing jazz, they say, well,
believe it or not,
I don't listen to that, but they listen to everything. Well, not everything else, but you know what they listening to. And like I say, it's not even music.
Yeah, believe it or not, he went and told me the same thing the last time he was in Owners. He said, man, nobody call me to do no educational things. I play on the, I think this I think it was before the Lincoln something.
Right.
He said, man, I'm out here trying to gig and make it. He had to go, before the Lincoln thing came, he was going overseas a lot of work. He said, well, nobody called him in the States.
Right.
We talked about that at Owners. So he said, man, nobody think this music is important. He playing the bell off the horn. You know what I'm saying? So he talks about that. The exact thing he said, they don't think it's important.
And most of them don't. I definitely said most of the band teachers in the city and county schools don't think it's important. No. It's all about a marching band. We talk about Jesse Taylor all the time, but Jesse was teaching at a middle school at Dale. And Jesse told me, he said, Bo, I'm gonna quit this job. Yeah. He quit teaching because he said if I can't teach them right, I'm not going to be involved in help messing them up.
Yeah. Right.
He was about teaching them music, and they wanted a band put together for assembly they were getting ready to have. He quit teaching, man. This is his livelihood. He quit the job because he felt that he wasn't being given the opportunity to really teach the children what they needed to know. And you have kids in schools now leaving out of high school, going to college, that can't play 10 major scales.
That's true.
And it's something wrong with that, man. There's something wrong with that, you know. But anyway, that's a society we're living in.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
What about you, Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, just to play off a little bit of what Bo said, you know, a lot of things and a lot of these issues in education in general, a lot of it is just spanned from a lot of privilege, you know, like access to resources a lot of times, and you know, and just the amount of funding that one school program gets versus another, and you know, and going, you know, kind of playing off what Bo was saying is, you know, even in my experience teaching, a lot of times I've kind of seen that a lot of band directors do tend to get a lot of result oriented. Like they want to just have the music ready. And it's in my opinion become a little bit less about the education per se, and more about just let's put a band together so the parents will be happy. Or, you know, the people that are donating to the band program. But, you know, I don't think it has to be that way. And, you know, I think probably the best resource any student can have, especially, you know, because I was in their same shoes not too long ago. And the best thing to do is, you know, there's tons of, you know, there's stuff going on in just about any major city. There's jam sessions in Birmingham. And, you know, both jam sessions in Birmingham currently are available to anybody of all ages.
Right.
So I know, like previously, you know, at some bars you have to be 21 or older, but you know, all these venues are open to all ages, and you know, there's stuff like that going on. There's a lot more community outreach, you know, and nonprofits coming up that are trying to teach people the right way to do it, because you know, with education, you know, a lot of these people they're music ed majors in college, obviously.
Right.
And, you know, their extent of jazz and their knowledge of playing jazz is, and a lot of times, the result of one course on jazz improvisation being taught by one of the faculty members at whatever school this is. You know, big schools are obviously going to have probably better faculty than most, but, you know, if you're, you know, a lot of times these band directors are getting basically one workshop with an entire class full of people, and that's the extent of their jazz knowledge a lot of times, you know, except for like the small little questions on like the I forget the name of the music ed test that you have to pass to, was it Praxis, where they're like, and the extent of those questions are like, you know, what instrument did Count Basie play, you know, and stuff like that, but you know. But, you know, with the amount of resources out there nowadays, like, just about any album is on any streaming platform. And some albums that are completely out of print, you know, that you can't find a record of or a CD of anywhere, they're on a lot of these streaming platforms or YouTube. And it's a great way to discover new music. You know, go on, you know, there's so many internet forums and people talking about records. Check that out. You know, even Instagram. You know, and Facebook and all these, you know, social media platforms, they're a great way to discover what's going on in your community. You know, I was just looking through Instagram today and just saw probably at least 15 of the people that I'm following posting about gigs and jam sessions that they're doing. So all the information's out there, and I think it really just comes down to immersing yourself in that experience and, you know, giving yourself a chance to at least give yourself the opportunity to be in a place where that music is being played, you know, whether that's jazz or if you're trying to go into classical or, you know, any kind of other genre. And, you know, there's so much information out there, and there's so much to be exposed, you know, to this music, you know, even with, you know, hip hop and rap artists, you know, Kendrick Lamar with Robert Glasper, like, he's a straight ahead jazz player and he can play. And, you know, everything's out there. It just takes, you know, like a little bit of time and just forcing yourself to get immersed in that scene.
Yeah. I totally agree with everybody saying. I know, like I said, this will be the last question. I know for me, when I first went to Mr. Carr's session, I was pretty amazed as far as how jazz was supposed to be played. I really didn't learn how to play jazz until I came to your session, honestly, and just pretty much was curious about it. And the jam session actually taught me how to approach the jazz and learning about the different techniques and who to study that were the greats of jazz, the Mount Rushmore, as people would call it sometimes. So my last question for everybody, how did you learn how to play jazz, and where did that pretty much start with you, Mr. Carr?
Well, that's a real good question, because you know, when you be young, you don't be thinking, but
Yeah.
The first guy I heard play jazz in my life was Amos Gordon. You know, At the same time, you know, I think I said in my interview, at the same time, Dick Clark set my embouchure, but I didn't know about Dick Clark had been on the road with Cooler Williams. I didn't know he was Chuck Clark's brother. I didn't know that Miss Stolenworth brother, but was a choir teacher at Jackson, Western only. So I didn't know all that, but when we got there, well, to be honest with you, I'm gonna go back. I played in a band when I was about in the 6th grade. Mr. Cleveland Smith, called the Family Funk Players. He used to take his saxophone out and play stuff, you know, but I ain't, you know, just play stuff. But I was younger, but when I got to high school, our band director, what he would do, he would, at that time, the smooth jazz was kind of coming in, and he'll play it. I told that ain't nothing to play. Y'all going crazy over there, because no, he's playing Johnny Hodges and Charlie Parker, so quite naturally, Herbert Laws, whoever he was, wasn't citing him. I'm on that tune, Friends and Strangers. I don't know if you was in that class that day. We were going crazy over Friends and Strangers. And he was going, he played, now he did it, you know, I remember he played it, and then he started going and modulating all the keys on his horn. He said, he ain't doing that, is it? You know, all that stuff, you know. Because, you know, he was just modulating all the keys. You know, we young, we looking at it, then he'd take his clarinet apart and start playing, that's this part, and that part, and that part. So that was my first time hearing some improv. But at the same time, it still ain't on my mind, you know. Then he'll put stuff on like both. He'll put blues march on. You know, he told all of us to transcribe it, but there was one person's transcriber named Billy Murphy. He went home and wrote it out, everything, came back and showed it to him, you know. You know, our mind just wasn't there, you know, that time. So that was my first time his improvisation was from my high school band, you know, in the band room. At the same time, I still didn't know how to improv, but then Jolton, all his former students always came back there. You know, he trying some players, you know. So all that helped too, like Tyler said, all that helped, you know. Guys come back, you see, used to be there, can play, you know, play the same minute you play. So that will help me. He the first guy I heard improv. You know, yeah.
What about you, Bo?
Well, my teacher, again, I have to go back to my teacher, man. I was very fortunate to meet Hooper Abrams when I did. I used to hear him playing jazz, man. He sounded like the guys I heard on record, man. And he was the first somebody I heard playing. And then I had a cousin that was dating a saxophone player. When he would come and see her, he would put stuff on like David Fathead Newman. I mean, really, really hard times. A tune I never forget, man. And after hearing that and realizing what I was listening to from Hooper, I realized, man, so this is what jazz is. This is what they call jazz. I mean, I was too young to really understand, but I knew what was going on. And Jose mentioned a guy, Hooper, which put the horn in my mouth, he left when I was in the 11th grade. And Mr. Smith, Cleveland Smith, came teaching at the school where I was. He was a saxophone player, fresh out of college. He had all the motor stuff down. He was trying to tell me about this, man. in 11th grade. I had sense enough to understand. I mean, he pulled his hand out and played, man. I'm talking about he played. Man, this kind of stuff trained on him. I mean, I'm listening, but I still don't have the knowledge and understanding of what's really going on. But through him, Hooper first, and then him, he gave me my first job. He had a band playing out of a place called Sandridge Country Club. This was a black country club back in the late 60s. You know, he gave me my first job playing with him. They was playing jazz. My first tune I learned, man, was Billy's Bounce.
Oh, wow.
You know, and from that point on, man, I began to, these older guys started just introducing me to other guys, and they started, about like a jam session, I started meeting these people, and they started taking time to show and tell me things, you know. And I mean, and I was very open-minded. That's another thing. Kids not as open-minded as they was when I was coming up.
Yeah.
I mean, man, it was just something. So those two people is who introduced me to jazz and made me start understanding what jazz was about. Then I started hearing all these guys, Jose was mentioned, like Jothan and all these guys. But I was playing in a rhythm and blues band. I knew what jazz was, but I wasn't putting in the kind of time that Jothan was putting in. I'm working, I'm making money, I'm traveling. And one night at a session on 5th Avenue, me and Benard mentioned the guy, Nate Miller, drummer. Yeah. We sitting there, man, and Jothan was up there playing, and I asked Nate, man, I said, man, how these guys find the time, man, to learn their horns like this? And Nate told me that night, and it changed my whole concept of how I began to look at things. He said, Bo, they made the time to do it. Yeah. I mean, I never thought about it from that standpoint, you know. You know, I would pick my horn up and mess around with a little something, but like I said, I'm working, man. I'm making money, so I don't have that interest like these cats did. And from that night on, that changed my whole life. You know, just that little knowledge there changed my whole life about the music. And I got in it after that. Yeah.
What about you, Benard?
Well, like Jose, my first exposure, you know, from our band director, Ms. Amos Gordon. But, you know, I know what you're saying about learning how to play jazz. I don't know if you ever stop learning. Well, I know you never stop. Not if you call yourself trying to play.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, it's really a lifetime thing. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think, you know, you have, you know, we name people who are great players, but then you got a lot of people that we don't even had never heard. I mean, you meet guys at jam sessions, at some jam sessions. You say, man, say where he get this stuff from? You know. So like I say, you know, it's always a learning thing. That's in right. There. It's always. If you start learning, I guess you just stop playing.
Yeah. What about yourself, Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, same thing here. I don't feel like I've really learned much at all. You know, my first kind of exposure to jazz and I guess getting acclimated with it was because I didn't pick up saxophone until I was in 8th grade, which is a little bit later than like most people would pick that up. I think nowadays mainly 6th grade. Yeah. Some even 5th, but I was playing flute beforehand. And then my brother told me to pick up saxophone, which I had no interest in doing. And I was like, all right, fine, I'll play alto. And he said, no, you're going to play tenor, which I now thank him for that. But picked up saxophone and was just basically mainly self-taught, really didn't, you know, study with any person. And, you know, at the time I was listening to like smooth jazz and like brass band stuff because I couldn't get over the recording quality of some of the older stuff. And then my brother got fed up with me listening to all that stuff. He was like, all right, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go on, you know, iTunes at the time and download Boss Tenors, which was Gene Ammons and Sonny Stitt. And I went and downloaded that record and it was remastered. And it was kind of like a deluxe edition, so it had that session and also the other takes from that same session. And I just listened to that nonstop. you know, and I fell in love with that record, and then from there just started branching out. I checked out basically every Sonny Stitt record I could get my hands on, and this is before streaming really took off, so I had to buy all that stuff.
Right.
So I was, you know, just buying iTunes cards about every week, you know, and just, you know, I got obsessed with Sonny Stitt, got obsessed with Gene Ammons, and then kind of went from there. I was like, all right, who were they checking out? Well, there was also Sonny Rollins, and Sonny Rollins was checking out Coleman Hawkins. Well, around the same time Coleman Hawkins was Ben Webster and Lester Young, and I just kind of got obsessed with that music, and you know, just reading through transcriptions I would find on the internet, you know, because not only did that help with my reading chops, but you know, it helped with my ears too, and just getting a chance, you know, not that I was doing any transcribing on my own, but it just gave me an idea of what playing the music felt like, and I could basically feel what those phrases felt like under my fingers, and I think that was kind of the most important thing, you know, is just listening like crazy. And I still do the same thing. I got 2 giant boxes and 2 end counting of CDs in my car, and I'll put on one record for, you know, sometimes a month, sometimes 2, and just memorize it. Maybe one time, once I've memorized the record as a whole, go through and just listen to bass, just listen to drums, just listen to piano, you know, or whoever's playing. But I think that was kind of the most important thing with me getting started, was just know what the music's supposed to sound like. You know, and sessions too can do the exact same thing, albeit I didn't start going out to any sessions until the very end of my time in high school, but you know, but just going to a session and just, you know, falling apart on whatever tune, you know, I mean, y'all I'm sure know, I had my fair share of times just folding on whatever tune it was, but that's such a great way to learn.
There you go.
Well, first off, I appreciate you guys for coming and even playing on today. I know there's a lot of history. Well, pretty much this is history. Jazz history in Birmingham. Of course, you can check out Tuxedo Junction, that particular area, and so many others, and even Bo and Mr. Carr and Benard, like they're pretty much our jazz history, and pretty much one of the only ones that are carry on the jazz legacy. So I definitely appreciate you guys for coming out, and also Mr. Matt and his crew. Appreciate them coming out and recording all of this. And Matt, what's the name of your YouTube page?
Real Jazz Now.
Okay, and make sure to check out their page, Real Jazz Now, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much, and hope you guys enjoyed it.